I had a question on my Instagram about why some knives rust and others don't. The knives that rust are made out of high carbon steel. And quite honestly, the knives that we build most of our blades out of are high carbon steel. But we do a few things as a company to help mitigate that. But in regards to the high carbon, and even frankly, the stainless steel will actually also rust. It just takes longer and it takes kind of more abuse or lack of care. But with a high carbon knife, it's got a carbon content in it which makes that steel corrode and rust over time. If you combine water and oxygen, you'll get that yellow kind of surface on it. Some people will call like a patina. If it pits after a while, it turns kind of a brownish black color. So how do you prevent that knife from rusting? Okay, well, first, it's about cleanliness. When you do use that knife, when you go to put that thing away, make sure you just take hot soapy water, wash it up real quick, and then dry it completely. There are some people that do the right thing by cleaning it, but then they leave it in the sink. There's a little puddle of water underneath the tip of that. And the next day they pick it up and turn it over and it's got a big rust spot on it. So clean the blade first, especially if you're using a blade in the kitchen. Cutting onions and other acidic materials like that. Some of those things will make steel rust a lot quicker. Vinegar, things like that, if it gets exposed on that blade, clean that stuff off right away. In order to keep a blade from rusting, once that blade is clean and dry, apply some of our Montana Knife Company blade wax to it. Just wipe it on, kind of wipe it off, and that's it. Now our blade wax is made with pure, authentic beeswax. There is no carnauba wax in it, so our wax doesn't really harden. So what you want to do after you clean that blade off is reapply it after each cleaning. Even the waxes out there that claim that their knife is never gonna rust, as you're using that knife and you're going through, hide and flesh and bone and rope and all that stuff, you're scrubbing that surface and that wax is going away. So it's best to just always reapply that blade wax. One of the things that we do to help prevent our blades from rusting is we parkerize the blade. That's a parkerizing process that comes actually from the gun industry. When you look at gun barrels of old, that they're all just black barrels. Those barrels are all made out of a carbon steel, and so they rust. But if you parkerize them, it actually kind of beats the oxidization of that surface to the punch. So instead of it rusting or turning yellow, that process turns that blade black, or that gun barrel black. Once that happens, it's basically unable to rust at that point unless you really abuse it and leave it in a bad substance for a long time. The one thing I will say about that is anywhere that you see silver exposed, like the logo or a sharpened edge, that can rust. So there again, applying that blade wax is a good way to prevent that. If that edge gets a little bit of rust on it, I wouldn't worry about it. If you resharpen that blade, that rust comes right off. With carbon steel blades, the one thing I'll say, if it's a knife that maybe we didn't make or it's a custom knife, I personally feel when you get some of that patina going on a knife, it actually looks really, really cool. When you look at, I've got my grandfather's knives from when he owned a butcher shop. They have a heavy kind of black patina on them. And that patina actually protects the surface of that steel. And I think that looks really cool. So, that's something that I wouldn't be too concerned about, is that to me, that's character. And that means you've been using that knife. It's just not kept perfect in a sheath. Stainless steel, as I said before, stainless steel can rust. It's kind of a myth that stainless doesn't rust. And I proved that point by just leaving a bunch of stainless steel piled outside my shop in the snowy conditions this winter. I just left it laying there, and it was just as rusty as the carbon steel laying next to it. It just takes longer to happen. So again, if you don't care for your knives or you abuse your knives, I don't care what steel they're made out of, they're going to rust. So it's not a bad idea to apply some of that blade wax to a stainless blade as well. Another big thing that people miss with knives when it comes to care is the sheath. You can clean that blade all you want, but if your sheath has a bunch of moisture in it, or salt water, or blood, or any kind of material left in that sheath, and you put that knife back in there, it's gonna cause that blade to rust or patina. So it's always a good idea to use hot soapy water or throw a Kydex sheath in a dishwasher and make sure it's clean and dry. Dry is the key. to making sure that that blade isn't gonna rust in that sheath. There's a lot of different coatings that you can put on a blade to keep it from rusting. There's a lot of waxes out there, there's oils, there's gun oils. Here's the problem I have with oils. Some of the oils actually attract moisture. A lot of that oil will attract like humidity out of the air, and if the oil isn't covering the entire blade, it can actually kind of counteract that process of protecting it and have it rust. The other problem with oils, like a gun oil or a WD-40 or any other kind of oil, is it's not food safe. So if you all of a sudden grab your hunting knife and you decide you want to cut up an apple and eat it while you're out on the mountain, you've got that oily taste on your apple. You know, it's not going to kill you, but it's not great for you, and it kind of ruins the taste of what you're doing, what you're eating. The other thing is a lot of these oils, like a WD-40, have a very strong odor. So you can actually smell that, and you know, the animal's senses when you're out hunting, what they can smell is incredible compared to what a human can smell. So if your wind is wrong, you can actually smell like the WD-40 on your gun barrel or on your knife. So that's why we say use our blade wax. Our blade wax comes from natural materials, like a beeswax. It's food safe. If you put that on and an hour later you're cutting into your apple, it's not gonna hurt anything. And you can also use our blade wax on your leather boots, your leather gunsling, your bridles on a horse, whatever it is that you want. You can even put it on your cutting board. The blade wax is something that I suggest that people carry, and it's got a lot of multiple different uses instead of just one. You'll see on a lot of our MKC knives that they're finished with a black finish, and most of the time that's that parkerized finish that we have on our carbon steel. However, you're gonna also see on some of our knives an orange finish or maybe a shinier black finish, and that's called Cerakote. There's a lot of different coatings out there. Cerakote is very durable. It's a baked on finish. But what you have to remember with every coating is every coating can wear. Every coating is gonna scratch. I don't care what kind of advertising or hype that they say. So that's why I still suggest, even with coated blades, if you want, throw a little blade wax on there, and that will keep from any kind of rust getting underneath that coating. If you have a scratch on a blade and then you let water or salt water lay on a blade and it starts to rust, it can rust underneath of that coating. So I don't care what coating you use, a diamond-like carbide coating or Cerakote, parkerizing, all of it. It's good to have blade wax on that blade. One more thing to remember when you're talking about coatings and rust and caring for knives is what conditions are you gonna be exposing that knife to? Salt water is definitely the harshest condition that you can have, and I would just not suggest using carbon steel knives in a saltwater application. It's a big reason why we started implementing our MagnaCut stainless steel. We are suggesting that people who are around the ocean, who are around the sea, who are fishing, diving, doing stuff like that, take a stainless steel blade with you. The carbon steel, no matter what you do, it's just gonna be tough to keep that blade really, really nice. That being said, even with those stainless steel blades, in that saltwater environment, you need to clean them, dry them, and coat them with wax to protect them.